I'm just knitting a lovely jersey for my son Johnny. Oh. Anywho, tonight, on this fine evening, I'm going to be telling you a story. A story of the Braithwates.
The Braithwates lived in a lovely neighbourhood not far from the centre of town. 'Twas but a quiet evening in Piccadilly Lane, where the residents resided. At 6:15, Mr. Edward Braithwate walked into the dining room of number 24 and sat down at the table.
Good evening,
He said to Mrs. Constance Braithwaite, who entered and produced Wednesday's traditional chicken and mash.
How's your day, darling?
She said, as she sat down to eat.
Quite uneventful, really. Pass the salt, would you?
Said Mr. Braithwaite.
Poor Mr. Braithwaite. He was awfully tired after a long day at the office.
How was your day?
He said, quite reluctantly. He didn't really give a damn.
They sat in their usual uncomfortable silence until Mrs. Braithwaite decided to make an announcement.
I'm having an affair
She said,
with the accountant.
as she popped a bite of chicken in her mouth.
Oh,
Said Mr. Braithwaite.
so am I. Not with the accountant, though. With your sister. Remember? The one that's more attractive than you.
Oh, I wonder why so dead looks up the picture of happiness at the country club.
Said Mrs. Braithwaite.
Knit one pearl two, knit one pearl two. That brazen wench, she thought, disgustedly. Couldn't trust her as far as I could throw her. And I tried, too. Couldn't fit her through the window, though.
They sat in silence for a little while longer, slowly devouring their meals.
Hold the bloody phone.
Muttered Mr. Braithwaite.
Isn't the accountant a woman?
Mrs. Braithwaite stared up at Mr. Braithwaite with a cold look in her eyes.
You should know. You've been staring at her breast for 25 years.
Oh,
Said Mr. Braithwaite.
quite.
And with that, Mrs. Braithwaite decided she had something else to say.
I want a divorce. Cindy and I want a civil union.
Mr. Braithwaite raised an eyebrow at this statement.
I'm afraid that would be quite impossible. No union with you could possibly be civil.
Hold on a bloody minute, I didn't bloody say that! Stick to the damn script, would you?
Dreadfully sorry.
Dreadfully sorry.
No.
Here we are.
Thank you.
Well, that's bloody better. Now, anywho...
Mrs. Braithwaite reached for the mashed potatoes and promptly said,
Well, I've had quite enough of your attitude.
and skillfully threw them right into his face.
Mr. Braithwaite let his opinion be known by retaliating with the chicken. Knit one, pearl one, knit one, pearl one.
Mrs. Braithwaite dodged the chicken and said,
You really can't do anything right, can you?
Mr. Braithwaite said,
Quite frankly, I've had enough of this immaturity.
and he stood up, turned, and began to walk out of the room. Mrs. Braithwaite reached for a wine glass and promptly dispatched it in Mr. Braithwaite's general direction.
Bullseye.
Said Mrs. Braithwaite. Mrs. Braithwaite spotted a conveniently placed kitchen knife. She advanced towards his almost lifeless body and began to stab him repetitively. Mrs. Braithwaite made her way back to the table and removed a small pad of paper from her pocket and found the page with to-do list. She ticked the box beside kill husband and quietly continued her meal. Then she noticed dear Mr. Braithwaite's unfinished dinner and picked up her cellular phone.
Cindy, darling, how are you? Would you like to join me? I seem to have made a bit too much dinner. Yes. Oh no, he's quite out of the picture. See you soon.
That was that, my dear children. Cindy and Mrs. Braithwate lived happily ever after, and that was the end. Oh, that's not a charity. Perhaps I should lay off the brandy.